Hmm. Hey everyone, good morning everyone. Welcome to the final episode of the Play Bowl series. Welcome. We're in Reading Municipal outside of Reading, Washington. Good to see everyone here. And welcome. Nice to see everyone here. Hope everyone is doing quite well. So, today we're going to have a very special fight here today. So overall, I gotta say that I'm really excited for this. So for our flight plan, we got quite a bit of a flight plan here today. We're gonna go and do some pretty awesome stuff. So our flight plan is gonna start us in not wait one sec. Our flight plan is going to be here in so we're going to take off here at Reading Airport, Reading Municipal. We're going to go through the Shasta Trinity National Forest, and then we'll make our first stop here in Eugene, home of the University of Oregon and their Ducks. Then, for the second and final leg of the trip, we're going to go from Eugene. We're going to fly over Portland. We're going to fly near Mount St. Helens. It pass through a bit on the outskirts of Tacoma, and then we'll fly to Seattle. Visit T-Mobile Park, Lumen Field, and the iconic Space Needle. And then we'll make our final stop at Sonoma County Airport outside of Everett, which is right outside of the Boeing plant here in Washington State. Yeah, so we get to be in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. It's gonna be beautiful. So overall, I gotta say this will be a very welcome change here today. So the question now is what kind of plane are we thinking about taking here today? Well, for me, I got me a brand new Christmas gift. I think a lot of you would be really excited for this one. It's this plane right here. This is one of the crown jewels. When you talk about add-on planes for the sim, this might just be one of the crown jewels. This is the PMDG DC-6. This thing is an absolute jewel. This now the DC-6 has had quite a bit of a long history. This was an airliner, very popular airliner during the 1950s and early 60s before the rise of the jet age. This was a very popular plane. It first flew in 1946. 704 of them have been produced. But the DC-6 is such an iconic airliner. It's been used by lots of different airlines from around the world. This thing it has a cruise speed of around 273 miles an hour, and it has a fantastic range. It can go up to 4,000 nautical miles, which is insane to think about. That a turboprop plane, I mean, a propeller-driven plane could get that far, which is just crazy. And there's still even some being flown today as a cargo plane, military, and wildlife control. They're still being used. Tons of airways have used the DC-6. It is such an iconic plane. Now, when you get into the plane for the first time, it might seem to be a really tricky plane because let's take a look at the cockpit. It looks really complicated. Look at all the switches. And unlike a lot of third-party planes, um, unlike a lot of the other third-party planes I've flown, none of those planes come even close to the depth this plane comes with. And mind you, this is going to be PMGG's most accessible product, mind you. It's still their most accessible, but PMDG has known for quality and such, and you can definitely tell there's all sorts of bells and whistles to press. There's all sorts of little nooks and crannies you can select. It is crazy. Just I mean, when you look into this for the first time, you'd be like, what in the heck should I do with this thing? Well, there's so many different buttons. I'm still relatively new at this, by the way. I did float earlier on 2Cat stream, but I'm still new for this. So I'm gonna try and get this started, but thankfully PMDG probably knew this ahead of time, so they came up with a really ingenious way to solve this issue. Well, if you look to your left, there's this thing called it Automatic Flight Engineer. We're gonna move this tablet here, and by moving this tablet, see this? This is our flight manager. This can manage all sorts of things. We can change the state of the plane. We can manage our fuel and load. You can do some maintenance, so we can maintain the plane. We can even determine the stress of the engine and such. And it's even got more options, including it even has a GPS system you can enable, and you could turn on some realistic options. But I'm not going to fiddle with that sort of stuff. I need more learning experience. But I know what would be nice is that we can change the state of the plane. So we're going to do something with the flight engineer. So we're going to turn on the before start. So the flight engineer is going to already alter this plane a bit. It's already going to go through some of the startup procedures on its own. Yes, the flight engineer can actually do that, and that's a really cool feature of the DC-6. And I'm letting the flight engineer kind of do its thing. So you can see this thing, the flight engineer is what he's doing is he's gonna try and get the plane before it starts. So he's turned all sorts of the other features on the plane. He's altering. He's turned them on automatically. He automatically turns it on. He can automatically change some.
Checks complete.
So let's see who's else in the chat. Pentagon's in the chat and Cat Eps. Good to see you, Agilent. Good to see you all in the chat.
Selected boost pumps. Off and off.
Yeah, she's a beautiful looking plane.
Generators and inverters. Checked and on. Emergency lights.
And actually, I have an easier way I can do this. If I want to really get in the air, which is now, I can set this place. turn the plane ready to start, and then I can just...
Selected boost pumps. Off and off. Plane battery.
So if you want to get in the group fight, you could just do this. And look at this. I can already get the plane started. See, I can set this plane ready to start if I want to. I do want to eventually get a chance to start on its own, but I'll wait to a dedicated stream for this. So I do have to wait a bit. Each of the engines is going to be started individually. So hopefully that we get the chance to get all this stuff started. One thing this is a very, very long car. But, I mean, this sounds like a real DC6. It is going to be a bit of a loud burr, that's going to be for sure. Now we get this. Now it's all started. We got all the engines. We're gonna get this thing taxiing. Now the runway we're gonna be heading is just runway 34. We're just gonna go to that runway. Yeah, this is the plane a lot of popular streamers take. Mainly the two people that come in line for me are Captain Stephanie and Two Cats. This is the plane that they use a lot, but particularly Two Cats. Two Cats is the community's DC6 pilot. And if you never got a chance to watch Two Cats, I really highly recommend you do so. He is a master at the DC6. He's literally a pro with that plane. He makes it look so easy. Now, once we get this started, now we question is: are we gonna do a dry or wet takeoff? We're gonna do dry. The dry is we don't really have many people. So look at this. The flanger is now what it does now is that it prepares us for a dry takeoff. And then we can get ready to get going. But let's get going. Now, the altitude we need to go, according to our nav map, is we need to get to 10,000 feet. So we need to look at oh, I forgot to do one more thing. The gust lock together. Whoops, that takeoff was certainly not the best. Sorry about that. I'm still new to this thing, so forgive me on this. let me adjust the sound settings. I think that's a bit. I think for this one's going to be a bit. So now we gotta turn on the gyro pilot. Now the gyro pilot should. Oh. Now we can turn on the gyro pilot. Now we need to go to a 334 degree heading. We gotta turn on the AP turn knob so we can turn. Now I'm gonna turn on the.
Setting cruise power.
Now I can set this thing into cruise. Now, this thing is a bit difficult to turn on.
Set cruise power, wait. Setting cruise power. Cruise power is set.
I want to make sure it's always a risk and not managed properly. Yeah, that's kind of the same thing for it all. So I'm going to go ahead and get this slideshow started. So if you guys don't mind, while I get the DC-6 working. So this is called the Mariner Voyage. Now, the Mariner Voyage is definitely called this because, well, it's called the Mariner Voyage because this is the final voyage of our series. So, as the final voyage, we went through a lot of things together. We went through crashes, we went through beautiful scenery, we went through all sorts of things. But now we could finally wrap this series up with a final episode. So what a great way to potentially end this series. Like, by ending it here in Seattle, that way we can get ready for the next trip, the next flight. So, for this series, we decided to talk about, we're going to head to Eugene first. This will be our first stop, and our destination it's going to be in Eugene, Oregon. Now, the reason we wanted to go to Eugene is because it is the third largest city in all of Oregon. Mm, So basically, what Eugene is known for is the fact that Eugene is known for its beautiful natural environment, its recreational opportunity, and the focus on the arts. Now, some of the landmarks the at Eugene include the University of Oregon, which is the main uh, attention point for this for this for the area. Austin Stadium is home to their football program. This is the big money-making attraction here at the university. And Mount Pigsa can be seen from outside of Eugene. Now, some notable people. Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, the famous shoe and sport and apparel company. Nike was actually founded by Phil Knight, who went to the University of Oregon, and his relationship between him and the university are very close. Then how about Terry Irwin, the famed wife of the late Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter? And then we got Danny Ainge, a very well-known basketball player and executive, very successful in his job, and has historically been incredibly successful as both. So now that once we deal with that, So now we get to the next topic I do want to talk about here today, this being the Seattle Mariners. Now, the Mariners historically have not been that successful of a franchise. They were established all the way back in 1977 as one of the two expansion teams of that year, the other one being the Toronto Blue Jays. They play in the American League West Division alongside the Angels, Athletics, Rangers, and Astros. But of all the American League teams, they're the only ones to not only not win a World Series, they're the only team in the major leagues that have never been to the World Series. But they do have 3 American League West titles, and they clinched a wild card berth in 2000, so they made 4 playoff appearances. And historically, they've been a losing franchise for most of their existence, as 30 of their 44 seasons of existence were all losing seasons, which is pretty poor to say for the least. Now, they play at T-Mobile Park, their home, which has been their home since 1999, and the team's colors are navy blue, metallic silver, and emerald green. And as of this year, they won 3,336 games to 3,727 games. And like I said earlier, they're the only team to have never been to the World Series in the professional Major League Baseball. Also, in addition to this as well, their mascot is the Mariner Moose, which is basically an anamorphic moose as well. So the history of the Mariners goes all the way back to actually 1970 because of a lawsuit. And as a result, due to that lawsuit, in order for the city of Seattle to drop their lawsuit, basically baseball promised them to get them a new team, which they do. And in that moment, the city named the new team the Mariners. And with that new team, they played at the Kingdom. Now, unfortunately for the Mariners, they weren't really that great during the first year, as they finished with 64 wins, which echoed the record that the Pilots, the original Seattle baseball team, once held during that time. And unfortunately, they had some decent young players, despite all having some pretty decent talent throughout all those years. The Mariners of the late 70s and in the entirety of the 80s were not very good. They were losing. They had consistent losing seasons. Though there was hope though, when and that's because they had a young star in the making. His name was Ken Griffey Jr., and he was one of the all-time great talented players in Major League history. And that talent I mentioned include Gaylord Perry, Harold Reynolds, Mark Langston, and Spike Owens. Those were all like really solid players, but they never could get anything done. But Ken Griffey Jr. could be that potential savior for the franchise. And then we get to the Seattle Mariners franchise. The second part, well, in 1990, after another dismal year in 1990, the Mariners under manager Jim LeBrevet managed to get the team their very first ever winning season in 1991 for a fifth-place finish during the American West. And during the 92-93 offseason, the Mariners brought in Lou Piniella as a manager and had their second winning season in 1993. And then we get to 1995. And 1995, for most Mariner fans, was one of the most important seasons in team history. You see, the Mariners at that time, they didn't just have to win for the American West. That wasn't the most important thing for the Mariners. For the Mariners, the more important thing was it was to keep playing baseball in Seattle. If they didn't win this season, they would be likely to be relocated to Tampa, mind you. And earlier that year, the voters didn't pass the thing in the King County, so they were threatened with relocation. So in 1995, the Mariners appeared in contention for much of the season. And heading into August, unfortunately, they looked like they were out of contention for the playoffs. But then something odd happened. Not only did the Mariners start winning, but the Angels nearly have collapsed in one of the worst regular season collapses in Major League Baseball history. And due to that, the Mariners not only made up for it, but in the final game of the season, they beat the Angels in the final series, and they went to their very first ever postseason appearance in 1995. But that wasn't the end of that season, though. As in the playoffs, they faced against the New York Yankees, and they went neck and neck through the whole series. The whole series just went neck to neck all the way to Game 5. And down 5-4 in the bottom 11th, Edgar Martinez made the biggest hit in the history of baseball in Seattle, as he drove in Ken Griffey Jr., knocking 2 runs, and one of them being Ken Griffey Jr. That play in Seattle was known as the double. That double punched Seattle's ticket to the American League Championship Series, and even though they lost the Championship Series, because of the resurgence in baseball's popularity in Seattle, the city of Seattle agreed to build a new stadium for the Seattle Mariners, which kept baseball in Seattle for the whole time. But the next 3 seasons were disappointing, and one of the main reasons why they didn't do so well for the next couple seasons was lack of pitching depth. And midway through the 99 season, these Mariners moved to their new home, Safeco Field, which is now T-Mobile Park. During the 2000 season, they managed they lost Ken Griffey Jr. to the trade, but despite that, the Mariners still persevered and still made to the playoffs under the back of Alex Rodriguez and company. But they went all the way to the American League Championship Series in 2000, despite being a wild card. But they fell to the Yankees in that series, which was the end of an era for baseball in Seattle. That was till 2001. In 2001, the Mariners made one of the biggest splashes in recent at the time. They signed legendary Japanese baseball star Ichiro Suzuki, and a lot of people said, "Oh, Ichiro wasn't going to be much," except Ichiro had an MVP season. And with the success, the 2001 Mariners won 116 games, which is the most in American League history, and tied with the 1906 Cubs for most wins in a single season, led by the MVP season of Ichiro. And they made it all the way to the championship series, but unfortunately, they weren't getting past the Yankees, unfortunately. For some reason, they just couldn't get past them. And due to this, the Mariners did not make it to the World Series. This was their best shot to make the World Series, and they couldn't do it, unfortunately. For the next couple seasons, the Mariners were pretty solid. Even with Ichiro hitting 262 hits in 2004, the Mariners just couldn't make it to the playoffs. And in 2007, they did contend for a playoff spot, but they came up short during that playoff spot. And then from 2008 to 2013, the Mariners struggled again. Until in 2014, they had a winning season, their first since 2009, as they stayed in playoff contention until the final week of the season, where they barely missed out on it. And then for the rest of the decade, the Mariners language at the bottom of the American League West standings. And as of this year, the Mariners overachieved that year. They won 90 games and had their most successful season since 2003, and were literally 2 games behind for the wild card berth. Unfortunately, they couldn't get it done. I wish they would have made the playoffs. They haven't made it since 2001. But the Mariners' future is actually looking quite bright, if you ask me. Now, for some of their all-time great players, now the Mariners historically were not a great franchise. They weren't that successful as a major league franchise. But that being said, there have been a few marvelous Mariners throughout the years. And there have been some really good ones, in fact. So one of the Mariners I do want to talk about is Edgar Martinez. I think one of the most important players in Mariners history. He's a Hall of Famer. He spent all 18 seasons with the Mariners, and he was the heart and soul of that team. He was not just one of the most important people in the Mariners, he was one of the most important players in Seattle baseball history. As Edgar Martinez helped save baseball in Seattle, thanks to his double. Now, he wasn't really highly regarded as a prospect, and originally he was the third baseman, but because he had some issues at third base, he became a designated hitter, and in that area, he absolutely shined. Edgar Martinez was a fantastic hitter. He hit for contact, and he also had pretty good pop in that bat, so he could absolutely swing. Now, Edgar Martinez was a 7-time All-Star. He was a 5-time Silver Slugger. He twice was the American League batting champion as well. And due to his contribution in the community, he was awarded the 2004 Roberto Clemente Award. He had a career .302 batting average with 2,247 hits, 309 home runs, and 1,261 RBIs. Now, the fun fact is, well, he was one of 18 players to record a batting average of 300. He had an on-base percentage of 40% on base, and a slugging percentage at over 50% slugging percentage in 5,000 or more plate appearances, which is insane. Edgar Martinez knows exactly how to hit, and he took full advantage of all the opportunities that was given to him. The next one is, without a doubt, probably the greatest Mariner, Ken Griffey Jr. From his debut in 1989, Ken Griffey Jr. was one of the all-time great legends. Now his father, Ken Griffey Sr., also played baseball. But Ken Griffey Jr. did more than just be one of the face of the Mariners. In the 1990s, he was probably the face of baseball and helped brought back the sport's popularity after the 94 strike. He was involved with international companies like Nike and Nintendo. Yes, he has his own series of baseball games. Like, I'm not kidding, he has his own signature sneakers. And his influence in baseball is still unbelievably huge. And he's only one of 29 players to play in 4 different calendar decades for Ken Griffey Jr. He was just an all-around amazing talent. He can hit for power. He has average. He can run. Ken Griffey has really good speed. And Ken Griffey was also a fantastic defender. People don't ever talk about Ken Griffey's defense. His defense was fantastic for a reason. And of course, who could forget about Ken Griffey's legendary swing? Probably the cleanest swing in baseball history. Absolutely clean. There was no one that could swing the baseball better than Griffey. Now, Ken Griffey Jr. was inducted to the... He was also known as the Kid, and he was inducted to the Hall of Fame in 2016 with just over 99% of the votes. More specifically, 99.3% of the votes. Which is pretty insane to say the least. Ken Griffey's batting average wasn't the highest with 284, but he did have over 2,700 hits. He nearly had 2,800 hits, 603 home runs, which puts him 7th all time, 1,836 RBIs. Griffey was a 13-time All-Star, with not just the Mariners, but also with the Cincinnati Reds and Chicago White Sox as well. Griffey was also an amazing all-around defender. That's why he has 10 gold gloves, because Ken Griffey is a great defender. He won the AL MVP in 1997, a 7-time Silver Slugger, and in 2005, he returned back from injury with the Reds, made an All-Star appearance, and he was the NL Comeback Player of the Year. And a fun fact about Ken Griffey Jr. was that in 2008, the Seattle Times, which is the main newspaper here in Seattle, named him the most important athlete in Seattle sports history. And to be fair, I don't blame him. Ken Griffey he represents baseball in Seattle better than anyone else here. Now, the question is, how do you exactly replace Ken Griffey Jr., you may ask? Well, you bring this guy here. This is Ichiro. Now, when Ichiro Suzuki, mind you, Ichiro Suzuki was already a legend in Japan. Ichiro wasn't just a really good player for the Mariners. He was a Japanese legend already. Mind you, he already won a Japanese Series championship. He was a 3-time MVP in the Japanese baseball leagues and such. So when he came over to Seattle, there was a lot of expectations for him. Some people thought he might have a big role in the team, but few would have imagined how big that Ichiro's impact on the sport would be. And he contributed immediately. In fact, he was probably the single most important piece of that 2001 Mariners team. Ichiro absolutely changed baseball. He brought in something completely different that a lot of people weren't expecting. In an era full of big swinging power hitters, Ichiro was an amazing slap hitter. He can slap you all over the field. Opposite fields, he could pull it, he could put it anywhere. And in fact, Ichiro was an amazing hitter. He could absolutely hit almost everything. There was a reason he had those 262 hits in 2004. Ichiro just knew how to get on base, he could hit. Ichiro also had really good speed. He was a really fast player, mind you. And Ichiro was an exceptional defender too. And his arm, and he had probably one of the best outfield arms of all time. Ichiro could just throw up base runners. And that's why he has those 10 gold gloves in addition to this as well. But the impact Ichiro had on the sport wasn't just on the field. Ichiro's addition to Major League Baseball was a huge deal. There were other Japanese players that made the league, but with Ichiro and his success in the major leagues, he inspired other Japanese-born players to make it to the major leagues. Guys like Hideki Matsui, Kinji Kojima, Kazuo Matsui, and other Japanese legends were inspired by Ichiro. make it into the major leagues. And he greatly increased Major League Baseball's popularity in Japan, and so much so that Major League Baseball has actually been playing games in Japan for quite a while now. The most recent being 2019. So Ichiro really played a huge role in it. Now, in his Major League career, Ichiro had a career 311 batting average, 3,089 hits, 117 home runs, and 780 RBIs, with 509 stolen bases. Now, Ichiro was a 10-time All-Star. He won the 2001 AL MVP and Rookie of the Year. Of course, he also has 10 Gold Gloves. He was awarded the Silver Slugger 3 times, and twice was the American League batting champion. Mind you, this was just his major league stats. In his Japanese career is probably just as crazy to think about, because he was a 3-time MVP there, 7-time All-Star. He was the best defensive player 7 times. And he was the best player in his position 7 times as well. And a fun fact, if you add both his Japanese baseball career and his major league career, Ichiro has had the most hits of any player of all time. Yes, more so than Pete Rose. Now that may be a contentious point for some people, but I really do believe that I think Ichiro is the all-time hit king. And I really do believe Ichiro is that good of a player as well. So yeah, Ichiro, very, very cool player. Definitely one of my favorites to watch when I was younger. And then the last Marvel's Merit I got to talk about is Felix Hernandez. Now, Felix Hernandez was one of the most talented pitchers in Seattle Mariners history. And he had a lot of really good pitches. He had a sinker, slider, curveball, fastball. And due to this, he was a great ground ball hitter. Not only did he do a lot of ground balls, he struck out a lot of batters. And during his prime, he could absolutely strike out lots of batters. And that's why he threw a perfect game all the way back in 2013. Definitely an all-time great pitching. He has the most wins in his pitch, strikeouts of any Mariners pitcher of all time. Now Felix Hernandez was a 6-time All-Star. He won the American League Cy Young Award in 2010, the 2009 Major League Baseball wins leader, and twice had the AL's lowest ERA stat in 2010 and 2014. He even once pitched a perfect game on August 15th, 2012. But definitely one of the really good pitchers. He has nearly 170 wins, over 2,500 strikeouts. And his ERA is decent at 3.42, and I know a lot of you think that's a kind of a high ERA, but you have to understand how bad those Mariners teams were. They were not good at all. So that's going to conclude the slideshow for the Mariners. So we're just going to get ready for the rest of his beautiful flight here in the DC-6. This is a marvelous bird, to say the least. So let's get into the showcase. Yeah, let's get to know this DC-6 a bit more. Oh yeah, the DC-6. Oh yeah, this bird is nice. She's gorgeous. I love this DC-6. Hey, Kazaki Flyer just ran into my stream. Oh, Kazaki, thank you for raiding my channel. 2 cats, hey, it's a DC-6. I told you I was going to bring the DC-6 2 cats. So yeah, welcome everyone to my stream. Good to see all of you here. Thank you. We just covered the Seattle history of the Mariners. Black Cobra 500 has just called. Splasher 6, morning. Good to see you, Splasher 6, a good friend of mine on the channel. This is the finale of my baseball stream. Good to see all of you here. So we just covered the Seattle Mariners earlier. If you guys don't mind, I could bring up the slideshow anytime. But you missed it, Splasher. I was talking about Ken Griffey Jr. and Ichiro. Just absolute legends. Thank you, everyone, for coming by on the raid. Goblin Zeus, good to see you again, my good friend. So yeah, this is the final stream of the series. And like I said, this DC-6 is just glorious. It took me a second to get the DC-6 back to where she should, but I mean, look at the detail on this. Look at this. It's got all sorts of radio stuff. It's got little pamphlets. Look at all this stuff. It's got the FAA manuals. Like, the detail on this and the quality of this is just unbelievable for the PMDG. In fact, I'm kind of jealous that that Jeppesen got the 737 for PMDG. He's gonna get the upcoming release. I'm so jealous. You caught me in of Ichiro. Yeah, Ichiro is one of the all-time legends there. Splasher 6. Yeah, Ichiro is going to be in the Hall of Fame. As soon as he gets eligibility, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. There's no reason he's not. Hey, Kazaki, morning. Got to see the raid worked. Ah, wonderful, Kazaki. I'm glad the raid worked. Glad that's finally working as it should. Good to see it work as it should. I hope we enjoyed Normandy. Normandy is very historic. It's known for all the sorts of the beachside landings. It's known for all the history and stuff with World War II. I hope you guys really enjoyed Normandy. I mean, it's quite a very, very historic place, that's for sure. So I have a shout out. So if you guys haven't, go follow Kazaki Flyer. He makes some really fun historical content as well. And I also saw that Two Cats was here earlier today. I had a shout out for you earlier, Two Cats. Daiki Decimus, good to see you, Daiki. Good to see you here too. Another good friend of the Viper Strike community. It's good to have you here as well. Yes, the DC-6 is a wonderful plane. And the good thing is now that with Murphy flying on this channel, the DC-6, I'm going to have way more experience with it. So I'm checking over my engine. My engine stress is good. Everything's normal. So if you guys see all these check marks, then it tells you your plane's normal. See, it has the legend. So if you know something's going on with the stress, you could probably find where it's at in the plane. Like I said, I'm still new to this. I still need more time with the DC-6. But the good thing is that with Murph doing the DC-6 series, it's going to give me plenty of experience. So I'm very, very happy to finally see things going on. So Two Cats, I believe you're going to be flying the Kodiak again today, isn't it? I saw that you posted on the Two-Tone Murphy Discord you're going to keep flying the Kodiak. I know B-Man has really raved about the plane, and I bet you're raving about it too, to be quite honest. So yeah, we're 11,000 feet over the Pacific Northwest. And I think a lot of people, when they talk about flying regions in the U.S., I know some people think Colorado or Utah are great. Do you have the Discord sound looped on your OBS? I need to check my audio properties. That's a good question. Do you have I don't have Discord sound looped onto OBS. I don't believe. I just had to disable the sounds. It sounds like it though. No, I disabled the sounds on it, so that's what I did. Never mind. No worries. So we're getting near Eugene. Now, there's a couple other things about Eugene that I think a lot of people should know. One of the things about Eugene, Oregon, is about their university, the Oregon Ducks. Now, the Oregon Ducks have been around for decades, and and they've had a really close relationship with Nike. And the main reason I want to talk about this is because Phil Knight was a really big proponent of the founding of Nike itself. It began here in Eugene, and definitely a very, very important area for a lot of stuff, for sure. Now, one of the landmarks we're going to be visiting today is Austin Stadium. I don't think it's got photogrammetry, but Austin Stadium in real life is actually a pretty crazy venue. It might only have 60,000 people, but Austin Stadium is a really loud stadium. It is extremely loud. One of the loudest stadiums in all of college football, and one of the reasons it's so loud is the fact fans are so close to the game that despite the fact that it's smaller, it is extremely loud. In 2007, with a crowd of 59,000 fans, it was recorded that the sound was at 127.2 decibels, which is extremely loud. To put that in perspective, about decibels, how loud things have been, the ambulance siren is around 120 decibels. So yeah, it's louder than an ambulance siren, which is pretty crazy to talk about Oregon football. So yes, I've been loving this DC-6. Two cats in chat. I love this DC-6. I know it takes a bit of an early while to get this thing flying, but I think once we get this bad boy flying, it's going to be a really, really good time. I still need to learn how to start this up manually. I know there's a mod for it that has the checklist in it. I probably should have gotten it, and I should have started manually. But I mean, I'm still new to it, so that's probably why I didn't really get it earlier. Also, one more thing is I got this T-shirt early in the mail yesterday. This is the Amy Johnson flight that Allison Johnson just finished yesterday. And I'm very happy for Allison. She finally got it done, which is about time. Oh, sorry about that for a sec. I checked my Discord, so I got a new message for the next series I'm doing, the 1926 Lufthansa Berlin to Beijing flight. So I actually got someone in the chat to help me out. Nightsep has actually helped me out with the plan since he's got the book. So yes, I have help for this as well. But yeah, why push yourself so hard? Just enjoy it. Oh, I know. Why push yourself so hard? I don't push myself too hard. I do enjoy flying. I just like to learn more about all this sort of stuff, Daiki. But yeah, good question though. But still a great question as well. I just want to bring out the best content that I can, and I definitely enjoy it, and I definitely do. I just like to actually show how much effort I want to do. Reading up the manual will get you there. That's a good point as well. Also, PMDG have their own tutorials too. So I'll probably watch more of that once I get done with the series and such. So actually, now that we cleared the taller mountains, I'm going to go ahead and probably start lowering my altitude to around 4,000 feet. So I'm going to go to my flight engineer here. And this is a really cool thing. It took me about 20 hours to get in the grips. Yeah, I still need more time. Disable this.
26 inches, please.
Now we're going to descend. We're going to do this. And turn on the glide wheel. What the glide wheel is going to do is that it's still going to drop the plane. I still need to turn off the altitude control.
Seatbelt signs on.
And I'm going to slowly glide this thing down. We're still learning in all the flights after still picking up trips in over 300 hours now. That's pretty insane about that. How many hours? I got a question though for Two Cats. Is how many hours have you been in the DC-6? Probably around 1,000 hours of DC-6. But I don't know. That's just me. Let me see if the engines aren't so stressed. No, the engine stress is good. Just checking the engine stuff. Just make sure everything works properly because this is not like a lot of add-on planes. You could just throw this thing willy-nilly if you wanted to. If you have all the realistic settings, you just can't throw this thing willy-nilly. You're going to have to do it yourself. And I've seen that plenty of times on Seppi's and Two Cat stream. I watched DC-6 tutorial to learn the basics, but I would still need more time with it. Yeah, same here, Goblins. I can get the basics, but I can get most of the early stuff working. That's not the problem. I think I still want to learn more about the intricacies of the plane. Because like I said, I really, really enjoy the plane. I just need to learn a bit more, that's all. And of course, the DC-6 also sounds amazing. It sounds so beautiful right now. But yeah, I'm still thankful for everyone who came to my stream on the raid. I really appreciate it. These extra viewers are just awesome. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I really do. And like I said too earlier, the Pacific Northwest I think is a criminally underrated area to fly. Especially with the hills, the forests, the lakes. The Pacific Northwest is a beautiful place to do some bush flying. It's my favorite plane so far, yeah. Yep, I definitely like to fly it. I don't think it's my primary plane I want to fly, the DC-6. I'm more into like the traditional bush planes and the Junkers. But this is a great plane to have in my hangar, that's for sure. It's always welcome in my hangar because it's vintage. It's vintage planes, and I love vintage older planes. So this is a perfect fit for me. I mean, there's one thing I always am impressed with this plane. There's just so much. I'll spawn in position DC-6, hope it'll work. Yeah, let's hope it works there, Goblin. 7,000 feet. Hope to get within 5,000 feet. Okay. Go back to cruise.
Power raising. Setting cruise
So,
power.
and we're around 7,000 feet. So now I'm cruising back at that altitude. See, this is one of the things I love about this plane. Even as someone like me who isn't so used to, because of this amazing flight engineer, which is a godsend, the flight engineer makes things so much easier, especially for newer pilots to enjoy this plane. It's a shame that the Xbox version of this plane isn't working for a lot of people. Though I'm hoping it gets fixed, but knowing PMDG, I think they put a lot of effort in making sure things get fixed. And that's a real shame because I know a lot of people were wanting to have the DC6 for the marketplace. Because I mean, it is, for many people, and I even think I so too, that this is the best third-party add-on plane for the sim. So yeah, I'm hoping to get things fixed. You should land the Douglas DC6 at Boeing Field just to be contrary. I'm actually landing this. Here's the nav map. The AFE gets you going. I know. Yep, it helps me get going soon. You see, Splasher, I'm not going to land at the Boeing Field because there's the Boeing King Airport. What I'm actually landing is Sonoma County, which is where the Boeing plant's located, and that's also where Forder does a lot of his streams from. Is from Sonoma County. Amazing flight engineer. I love the flight engineer. I love it too. It's such a great thing that PMDG did. I'm glad PMDG did that because especially with Microsoft Flight Sim being the most oh, K-Wart just followed. Hey K-Wart, thank you for following my channel. Welcome to Viper Strike 95 stream. Good to see you. We're doing the finale of my Play Ball series. We're on our way to Eugene, Oregon for the first stop of the trip in the beautiful and amazing PMDG DC6. Welcome. It is an incredible plane. I love it. Thanks for coming, K-Wart. I hope everything's going well with you today. Okay, now I can descend a bit further, so I'm going to go open up back the tablet. I'm going to go ahead and get started with descent. Turn this off. Put the glide wheel.
26 inches set. Descent checklist, please.
So I'm going to descend this a bit further.
Seatbelt signs on. On. Engine lowers low. Low. Descent checks are complete.
Lots of amazing people came today, K-Wart. Zaki Flyer rated my stream. I'm having a great stream today, and we just talked a bit earlier about the Seattle Mariners. I talked about the history of the team, and talked about some of their all-time great players, including that of Ken Griffey Jr. and Ichiro. That was some beloved Mariners to talk about too. I read that the first day of the DC6 sold out their sales of all their previous. I heard about that. Like they've earned it, that's for sure. Because the DC6 is such a quality plane. I mean, with all of the other planes in the sim, like kind of add-ons not feeling that great, this is the first true high quality product in the sim. Like the first true extremely high quality. And I'm hoping we get more of these kind of products in the sim. I haven't tried the Just Flight arrows and all that yet. I'm hoping to get those arrows at some point. I'm hoping I get the opportunity to try out those planes. As I think, I think once I fly the arrows and stuff, I think I'll be very happy. When the DC came out, it was bonkers here on Twitch. We all had a DC-6. Yep, I've heard about that. We all had a DC-6 when it came out. The only reason I didn't get the DC-6 back then was because I was trying to save my money. I was waiting for Christmas time to get it, and thankfully I got it when it was on sale. So I'm happy to finally get the DC-6, and it has been so well worth it. Love that plane. Love it. That's for sure. There's George Zeus in the back. I see him in the back. The arrows are on sale now in the sim market. They're still expensive. Yep. I still want to get them at some point because I'm interested in trying out the Piper arrows myself. I know they're expensive, but Justified's been making a lot of great products though for the sim. I mean, the arrows have been received extremely highly. The Hawk that just came out, their trader jets, that is a product people really like. So I'm really curious to see how I really fare with the arrows. Maybe that'll be my next high quality product I get is the arrows. And since it's GA, I think I would definitely be interested in that. The other thing I'm really excited for is their Concorde, the DC Designs Concorde. That is another airliner I would be kind of excited for. I still want to wait to see what people think of it first. But like I said, I'm very excited for a lot of the new flights and products. And then Wing 42, I saw a bit on Fabio's stream about the Boeing 247, another vintage airliner that's like the Junkers of vintage airliner that I would definitely be very interested in getting. Like I said, there's a lot of great products that's coming out in the market soon, and I'm honestly, I can't wait for it. More high quality products is only going to be good for the flight sim community, and I think it's about time we finally get some new ones. Black Friday is also good. I got the Islander for 30% off. I'm not really interested in X-Plane though. I've already spent a lot of money on Microsoft Flight Simulator, so I'm not interested in X-Plane, Goblins. However, wait a minute. Black Friday is also a good time. I should probably go on Flight Sim TO and get Jefferson's I should get Jefferson's Falcon Field at some point. I want to support Jefferson. Jefferson is amazing. Like the quality on all Jefferson's products are exceptional. Okay, let's go ahead and turn the altitude control on. Head back to cruise. And there we go. Back to cruise. I mean, there's just so many teeny little things you could touch. It's just crazy to think about. There's all sorts of gauges on this, and I mean, I said this earlier when I first started the stream. For a newer pilot, this seems like to be a really intimidating thing for newer pilots. It looks extremely intimidating, but because of the flight engineer and all that, it's going to make things significantly easier for newer pilots. And I think that's a very smart thing to do. Oh, the Kodiak. Yeah, I saw... Yeah, Beeman was raving about the Kodiak, Dikey. Yes, the Kodiak is the only plane. X-Plane's just explored a little for me. A lot of people still flying it. Yeah, but I mean, I already got my flight sim being Microsoft. But yeah, X-Plane's definitely interesting. But going back to Dikey, when he said, yeah, the Kodiak. I have one of their other products, the Zenith, and I really enjoy flying the Zenith. And a lot of people have been raving about it. I mean, B-Mint really likes the Kodiak, and I know Two Cats is going to continue to fly that thing. for nearly every stream he could with the Kodiak, which is going to be amazing. So yeah, I want to see when the Kodiak's fully released and see what people think about it. I'm tempted to get it. I mean, I'm happy with the 208, but if the Kodiak's like really good, I might get it. I'm just waiting to see it with all the reviews and such before I get it. All the gauges look daunting, but after a while it's not so hard. Yeah, it's the same thing here. All the stuff you touch. I'm gonna go ahead and disable the cruise on this plane, and I'll take it over by hand. Oh yeah, and this plane's also a bit loud. So I apologize. If it drowns on my voice, I kind of apologize. Does, So we're going to. I want to retire the Zoba 28. Too many things are inoperated. Good plan, but grr. Yeah, I can understand. So we're flying. This is the University of Oregon down here. Unfortunately, there's no photogrammetry here in Eugene. I'm surprised Eugene never had photogrammetry. So this is where the University of Oregon would be, right over here. And then and there's what Austin Stadium would be right here. Unfortunately, there's no photogrammetry here, so but here's all the Oregon Sports Complex for the University of Oregon. Now, airport. Airport. Let me get back to the airport. Coffee time. No worries. K-Word. We're going to land on runway 34 left. So 34 left is where we're going to land here on our first stop. Okay, go back to green. Start the flaps. Put more flaps on this to slow down the plane. In range check, AFE.
Cooling turbine. Normal.
Never mind. Yeah, I got this. Landing is not going to be the problem.
Planes on, crossfeed off.
I'm more than range. I see the runway in sight. increase the trim. Got it. That was a smooth landing. That was I didn't feel much of anything on that. That was smooth. How about that for a good landing on the DC-6? Not bad at all. That was actually a really good landing. That was an amazing. That was, yeah. She landed smooth. Yeah, yeah. Once you, nice one. Thanks, Daiki. The last thing I had. This was the biggest thing I've landed with propellers so far. Like, it was hard for me to land airliners, but this thing actually wasn't so bad. I just had to readjust the trim and the throttle, make sure she landed properly. But that was a pretty smooth landing, if you ask me. So yeah, we're here at Malon Sweetfield Airport here in Eugene. Welcome. Welcome to Eugene, the home of the Oregon Ducks. Now, some information about Eugene Airport. Eugene Airport is the 5th largest airport in the entire Pacific Northwest. It's named after Mullen Sweet, a Eugene automobile dealer with a strong support of aviation. It was built here. This airport was built in 1943. The first air service to fly here was United Airlines with their DC-3s. So definitely a very interesting thing as well. I don't see Kazaki Flyer. I don't see Druid Zeus here. He's still way up there, 15,000 feet, that's for sure. So for our route, we're here in Eugene, and if you want to join me on this amazing flight, I'm on the East USA server. So far, East USA has been working quite well for me. I know a lot of people have been on North Europe or West Europe. So I guess with Druid Zeus, I'm going to give me some dinner, have fun. Hey, thank you for coming on my stream, Daiki. I really, really appreciate you coming. Thanks for coming on my stream. I really appreciate it. So we're gonna get the DC-6 back on the runway since Druid Zeus is still up there. Yeah, well, I'm in Mount St. Helens. Ooh, Mount St. Helens. Yeah, now, for those who don't know, Mount St. Helens was actually a volcano. It erupted in 1980. It was one of the worst volcano disasters in American history. And because of the volcano eruption, a whole chunk of the Mount St. Helens is not there anymore because of the volcano. And it's a very popular site for like a lot climbers and a lot of people that like to hike and do all the stuff in the trails. Mount St. Helens is very, very popular for that. I might want to do something about all 50 United States at some point. Visit each of the American states at some point. So we're back on the runway. So now we're going to head to Portland. Now, the altitude for this, we can actually stay within 3,000 feet. We don't really need to go super high. So let's get to 3,000 feet. Not a really high altitude. We can just stay in the lower ends of it. $99, around 100.
Cruise power, please. City cruise power. Cruise power is.
Just gonna climb this thing back up. Gotta climb with it. I just gotta climb around 3,000. I guess I'd climb around 4,500 feet. I guess 3,500 feet would be a good. Your stream freezed on the pad. It's back now. Yeah, sometimes the stream has an issue. I think that's something people had last week.
Cruise power, please. City cruise power. Cruise power is set.
Yep. Now I turn things back to the way they should, and I can just. I can turn the cruise.
Cruise power, please.
There. So now we're going to be heading to our first stop here. We're going to be on our second tour. We're going to be flying over Portland, Oregon. Now it's known as the capital and largest city of Oregon. Portland is also the major hub for social liberal policies in the country. It's one of the major homes of that. Now, Portland's longtime nickname has been the City of Roses, and the reason for this is because the climate here in Portland is perfect for growing roses, which is one of the major plants that are grown here. Also, in addition, Portland has also been known as a port city due to its location around the port area for many ships that go through the rivers. They go through the Columbia River into the rest of Oregon. Portland is well known for that. So some of the major landmarks here in Portland, they include the International Rose Garden, the St. John's Bridge, and the Pittock Mansion. Now, the Rose Garden here is a really cool one. In that rose garden, there's over 10,000 rose bushes located there and over 650 different varieties of roses. Lots of different kinds of roses grow here. Pink roses, red, all sorts of different ones. And due to this, it's what gave Portland, Oregon the nickname the City of Roses, which is really cool. Now, some notable people include Nancy Wilson, the lead singer of Heart. How about one of the most feared NFL players, Nick Dominican? And how about the inventor of the Phillips head screwdriver, Henry F. Phillips, is one of the most famous and well-known people here in Portland. Now, let me get this gyro pile back on track. So yeah, we're getting the more of the flat side of Oregon. So definitely a very interesting thing. We're gonna fly over a bit about um, we're gonna fly over. Yeah, it's beautiful here today. The clouds. This is really, really cool. I mean, I'm happy I get to finally stream with the DC6. I know everyone else seems to stream with the DC6 but me. So I'm happy I get to finally have that opportunity for it as well. Okay, let's return this thing back to center. Let's return this back. So if you guys don't mind, I got some pop. Love this plane. Yeah, I love it too. I know it may not be exactly my kind of. I love vintage stuff. Well, I mean, I'm not going to be seeing myself flying this all the time. I think there are planes that I think I would fly more, like the T6, the P-51. What's your next purchase plane? Ah, great question, K-Wart. The next plane I'm probably going to purchase is either the Fine Iron P-38 or actually in January, Asobo and Microsoft are going to bring in their local Legends plane for Australia, and that being the Fokker F Model 7. SeaTac in sight. Yep. Seattle Tacoma, very busy airport. But K-Wart, what I'm about to say, K-Wart, is Fine Iron P-38 or the Microsoft and Asobo Fokker F7. Another vintage plane that I would love. And considering how much I love the JU-52, I think that would be my other purchase. Get to fly another classic plane. And mind you, it's flown by the legendary Charles Kingsford Smith, an Australian aviator. That would be extremely cool to fly. Let's get back to the showcase. I mean, this plane is just glorious. Now let's see. I want to see the interior of this. Look at this. There's the interior with all the seats. I guess we could put Kazaki in one of the seats, K-Warts somewhere first class. Two cats, probably with the squirrel cargo area, full squirrels, if he's still here. Washer 6 probably is the co-pilot. He'll help me out with it. Yeah, imagine flying this back in the 1950s during that time. It's crazy. I mean, airliners have changed so much within the last 50 years or so. Back 50 years ago, this would be like an airliner people would fly. Would be the DC-6 or the Connie. And nowadays, we have the 747, 787s. It's crazy. I'm not even an airline person, but it's crazy how much aviation's changed in over 100 years. It's insane. Are you flying again from Portland? I'm not gonna land from Portland. I'm just gonna fly over the city. I'm just I'm just visiting Portland just because I'm not landing in any of the airports. I can bring up the nav map. So on my nav map, I'm gonna be heading to Portland, and we're just gonna fly straight ahead. We're gonna be visiting Providence Park in the Moda Center, two sport facilities here in Portland, and then we just go straight in. So I'm still continuing to make things from a straight flight. We're just, I'm just flying over the city. That's all. 737 would be awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to finally get a good jetliner. Like, I'm not even a jetliner guy. Like, I am no jetliner guy, but I'm excited for the 737. If considering how good the PMDG DC-6 is, I have high hopes for it. If they can pull it off, I think a lot of jetliner pilots are going to be tubeliner pilots are going to be so happy. And I think that's the one area of the sim that I think it is lacking. Like, we got loads of great GA planes, warbirds. We even have helicopters. Even though Microsoft and Asobo have never done helicopter support, they're still supporting helicopters. It's just the tube liners, unfortunately, have not gotten the love that I think they kind of deserve a bit. And that's coming as a fan of GA. KCA, actually, Okay, no worries, man. I just want to make sure I get everything the way it should. I see Salem, but Oregon to our left is Salem. Just increase the throttle so I can turn off the cruise mode so I can get this a bit quicker.
Set cruise power, please.
I really wish the P-38 got on sale. I know the P-38 was another plane I really wanted to get for the sim. I love that they're flying our Spitfire, one of the best warbirds you can get. Love their flying our Spitfire, and apparently from what I heard, the P-38 is even better than the Spitfire. So I can't really wait to see more of it. I think it would be a really awesome thing to have. A bundle would be nice. Yeah, I kind of feel that way too.
Cruise checks are complete.
So definitely very interesting to see here today. We should get to Portland pretty soon. Oh, she sounds so beautiful. The DC-6 is also one of the best sounding planes to listen to. Those four massive propeller engines. Oh, the sound. It is absolutely incredible. I mean, full weight of the plane is like 102,000 pounds fully loaded. Those engines are massive. Each of these engines are 2,500 horsepower each. Massive radio engines. It's apparently 18-cylinder engines, which is it's massive. It is pretty insane. I see Splasher 6 loading. Preferably P-51 would. I really need an old warbird. Preferably P-51 with top drop tanks. Oh, P-51 would be a good choice. It would be more than fast enough to keep up with this. Yeah, P-51 would be a good choice. Spitfire, P-38, all of them would be excellent escorts for this thing. Cruising around 229 knots. So here's Portland coming up pretty soon. And I see Splasher 6 is in here. He might be he might be in Portland International, maybe. Yeah, those engines are beasts. I mean, they're 2,500 horsepower each, and this thing's got 4 of them. I don't even want to think about how much torque those engines would probably produce as well. I mean, 10,000 horsepower worth of engines. Like I said, I don't even want to think about how much torque they produce. I bet those engines are gonna have so much torque. It's just DC9 used the exhaust to generate another 1,000 horsepower. Dear goodness. That's like 3,500 horsepower. You mean the DC-7? Yeah, you meant the DC-7, the next... Do you mean the DC-7? Because the DC-9 is a jet airliner. The DC-7 is the more advanced version of the DC-6. The DC-7 is even more insane, because the DC-7 has 3,400 horsepower each. And that thing can get some pretty insane cruise speeds of around 300 knots cruise. Even more range. What I'm really hoping for is I'm hoping we get the DC-3 out soon. I know Aeroplane Heaven's making it, but I don't trust Aeroplane Heaven because of their customer service. I know Colonel Forks avoided them for the most part. I know Allison Johnson's got the Electra, and I know she's going to be flying that in January. But I don't trust myself with the Aeroplane Heaven. So, welcome to Portland, Oregon. Welcome to Portland. So, Portland being an incredibly important port town here in Oregon, definitely the most important. Welcome to Viper Strike Airlines. So, this facility down over here is Providence Park. This was the home to the old Portland Beavers minor league team. But also currently it's the home of the Portland Timbers major MLS soccer team, which are huge in the city. And then over here, right here in this area, that is the Moda Center. That's home to Portland's other major league sports team, the Trailblazers, their original and most popular team. Let's start this back. There's Splasher 6, and there's Splasher 6 at Well, at Portland International, KPDX, one of the largest international airports in the Pacific Northwest. Just ignore it. So Portland International is one of the most busier. It's one of the busier airports in the country. It's definitely the most. It's definitely the busiest in all of Oregon, and it hosts many international flights in Canada, Germany, Japan, Mexico, the Netherlands, South Korea, and Iceland. All make international nonstop flights here in Portland International. And it's even considered by many to be one of the top international airports in the country. Voted by Travel and Leisure, Condé Nast Traveler, and JD Power and Associates as one of the top international airports in the country. Okay. Save the altitude controls. So I do want to make this slideshow. So let's talk about some series recap stuff. So let's recap this series. This is the final episode, mind you. So this ended up being amazing. I want to thank everyone here for being here for the whole series. What an incredible journey. I really want to thank everyone here. The viewers are the most important people. And all the people who flow with me in the chat and everything. So, the trip highlights. We got to visit all 30 current Major League Baseball teams in 26 different cities, plus Montreal and many other cities along the US, Canada, and yes, even Mexico. Of all the lengths of our trip, for a total distance of 5,896 nautical miles, which is around 10,919 kilometers or 6,785 miles of our trip. And before today, our journey lasted for 62 hours and 26 minutes or 2.5 days of streaming time, which is pretty crazy to think about. And this has been happening since May. Not counting my vacation stuff, but my total streaming stuff, it is actually crazy. All the memories of being here with the community, all the fails, all the successes, the beautiful sightseeing, the history. I really wanted to thank everyone. Thank you so much. Now we get to baseball's greatest moments. Let's recap some of those. The first World Series in 1903 between the Boston Red Sox and the Pirates. The first ever matchup between the two leagues for the championship. This has been still going on ever since. And the World Series is still one of the sport's greatest traditions going on. In 1933, Major League Baseball hosted its first All-Star game mid-season, and it pitted the best stars of both leagues. And it's still a tradition still going on to this day. And it's still one of the sport's most proud traditions. Then we got July 4th, 1939. Lou Gehrig, due to him having Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS, Lou Gehrig retired from baseball, and he had one of the most memorable retirement speeches of all time. The luckiest man on the face of the earth. It's still being felt to this day. On April 15th, 1947, Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color barrier when he played his first regular season game at Evansville in Brooklyn, and the sport completely changed as thanks to him breaking the color barrier, many other black baseball stars made it to the major leagues, including players like Henry Aaron, Roy Campanella, Willie Mays, and many more stars finally get their opportunity to play in the major leagues. On April 8th, 1974, Henry Aaron broke Babe Ruth's all-time home run record, a record many thought wouldn't be possible, as Henry Aaron broke the record from the roof. And finally, on September 6th, 1995, Cal Ripken Jr. broke another record that was not thought to be possible. He by playing in his 2,131st straight game, he broke Lou Gehrig's record for the most consecutive games ever played. And he went all the way to over 2,600 games before he finally sat down. The greatest player for each team, I'm going to give you the reasons for it. So for the Yankees, Babe Ruth completely changed baseball. He was that larger-than-life figure that helped grow the sport to what it is today. Plus, Babe Ruth was also an amazing player himself. He hit, played defense, and even was once a really good pitcher. For the Red Sox, that would be Ted Williams. Ted Williams was the last player to hit 400 in a regular season, and Ted Williams played for his entire career in Boston, and he's still a legend to this day. For the Blue Jays, that being Roy Halladay, the great Blue Jays pitcher, and he was one of the most successful pitchers in the American League throughout the entire 2000s. And is one of two Blue Jays to be in the Hall of Fame. For the Rays, Evan Longoria may not be a Hall of Famer, but considering his impact for the team, I don't think there is a more impactful player than Evan Longoria was for the Rays. Without him, the Rays would have not made it to the 2008 World Series, or even made the playoffs in 2011. For the Orioles, that being Cal Ripken Jr. Huge player in helping him win the 1983 World Series, and broke Lou Gehrig's all-time consecutive games record. But Cal Ripken is an Orioles legend through and through. For the Guardians of the American League Central, the Guardians is represented by Bob Feller, the legendary fireball all the way from Iowa. Bob Feller served in World War II, and he was a hero to the country. And Bob Feller was one of the most feared strikeout pitchers of all time. For the White Sox, I had to pick Nellie Fox due to his long-term longevity and being one of the best second basemen of all time for the Chicago White Sox. For the Twins, we had to go back to their days in Washington. I had to pick Walter Johnson. There's a reason he was in the original Hall of Fame class in 1936. He was one of the most dominant pitchers to ever play baseball. Intimidating fastball, and he was a strikeout machine. For the Tigers, how about one of the other top 5 best players of all time, Ty Cobb. Amazing hitter, great base runner, solid defensive player. Todd Cobb was absolutely a hitting machine. That's why he had the career 366 batting average, the most of all time. For the Royals, this one is very obvious. It's George Brett. George Brett was the major player of a 1985 team that helped them win the World Series, and is the Royals' all-time leader in hits, home run, hits, RBIs, and many more stats. For the Rangers, I picked Adrian Beltre as he was one of their most consistent third basemen, and he was extremely key for the team. For the Mariners, this one's obvious. Ken Griffey Jr. is the best player on the Mariners. He has established many Mariners records, including home runs and RBIs. And without a doubt, Ken Griffey Jr. defined baseball in the 1990s. Angels, Mike Trout. Even though he's still playing, Mike Trout is still the best Angel. He's the only Angels player to win multiple MVPs. And he's probably considered by many to be already an all-time great. Astros, I picked the Fireball Noah Ryan. 7 no-hitters. An easy pick. And finally, for the Athletics, I had to pick probably one of the best pitchers of all time, Lefty Grove. The best left-handed pitcher of all time, Lefty Grove. Amazing pitcher. and a huge piece of the Philadelphia Athletics team of the 1920 and early 30s. For the National League East, the Mets, I picked Tom Seaver. Terrific Tom, amazing pitcher, one of the best pitchers of the 1970s. The Phillies, this one's easy. Mike Schmidt is considered by many to be the best third baseman of all time. For the Nationals, being a newer franchise, I had to pick Max Scherzer. Easily the best pitcher in team history, and a huge piece of the success the Washington Nationals have enjoyed. For the Marlins, I picked Giancarlo Stanton, because Stanton is one of the all-time great players in team history. And for the Braves, I had to pick Henry Aaron, one of the other top 5 players of all time. Henry Aaron is an amazing pit player. The Cubs, Ernie Banks is Mr. Cub for a reason. He's still the most beloved Cub player of all time. Cardinals, Stan Musial, one of the legends, the greatest Cardinal to ever play. Brewers is Robin Yount's, the only Brewer to win an MVP, and he was there in the World Series caliber team. The Reds, Johnny Bench, the main linchpin of the Big Red Machine of the 1970s. And the Pirates, I picked Honus Wagner, one of the greatest hitters of all time as well. And finally, for the National League West, I picked Sandy Koufax for the Dodgers. He is probably one of the most dominant pitchers of the 1960s. For the Giants, Willie Mays, one of baseball's all-time great talents. For the Rockies, how about future Hall of Famer Todd Helton, who I legitimately believe he can make the Hall of Fame soon. And I mean sooner than later. For the Diamondbacks, Randy Johnson was so huge for the team. He completely transformed the franchise into a World Series winner in 2001. And finally, the Padres, I picked Tony Gwynn. Mr. Padre himself played for his entire career in San Diego and is one of the greatest hitters ever. And finally, the greatest season. These are some of the greatest seasons for each team. Most of these have either been they won the World Series and gotten their most successful season based on wins in World Series and what they meant for the team. So these are all the greatest seasons for each team. All their greatest seasons and accomplishments. And I think that is going to be really it for the recap. So I think we got nearly everything recapped here, guys. So I don't think we're very far from Tacoma at all. In fact, I think we're pretty much near Tacoma now, and oh, there's K-Wart in the, yeah, you're the Super Hornet. There's K-Wart in the Hornet. I got Escort. And there's Boxer 6 in the Mustang. Guys, I got fire escorts. That Hornet does sound really good, though. I was tempted to take the Hornet, actually, today. But I felt the DC-6 would get better pick. Everything sounds great here today, that's for sure. Hey, Foxtrot! Hey, Foxtrot, good to see you, Fox. Thanks for coming here, Fox. I really appreciate it. This is the finale of my baseball series. So, Foxtrot's a really cool content creator. He's a great supporter of the channel. I've been on his streams before. Really fun, a really interesting guy. Go check out Foxtrot. Thanks for coming. So we're heading to Tacoma right now, Fox. We're in your neck of the woods, I believe. So, yeah, and this is the DC-6, an absolutely incredible plane. Thanks for the shout out. No worries, Fox. Thanks to you, Viberstrike. No worries. I try to bring the best content I can. So yeah, this is the finale of it. I'll talk about more about this once we get done landing here, but we're actually heading now to Tacoma. I'm going to descend.
26 inches, please.
So now we're gonna press this. Now we're gonna fly down.
Descent checkpoint, please.
So we're gonna be heading to Tacoma. So for guys who don't know, Tacoma, Washington is one of the largest cities in the entire Pacific Northwest. It's actually Washington's third largest city, behind Seattle and I believe Spokane, are all larger cities. Now, Tacoma got its name from the nearby Mount Rainier, and is locally known as the City of Destiny, and the reason for this is because it is what connected the Pacific Northwest Railroad was connected here in Tacoma, between the ship and rails, and that was grown to the 20th century. Tacoma was a big-time factory city here in the state of Washington. Now, as the third largest city in the state, it has a few pretty iconic landmarks. Shea Stadium is the home of the Tacoma Rainiers AAA baseball team for the Seattle Mariners. The main car museum and the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. Now, this is the more modern Tacoma Narrows Bridge. There was an original one built in 1940, but that one was in a very famous building collapse, per se. Now, some notable people who actually are from here, including Calvin Barlow, who was born here. How about the famous Bing Crosby? He was actually born here in Tacoma, and he became one of the great American entertainers of the 30s to the 50s. Bing Crosby is a huge name, and John M. Miller III were all people from Tacoma. However, Tacoma was known for another thing. You see, Tacoma, due to the fact it produces a lot of paper pulp and everything, Tacoma, Washington actually has its own aroma, called the Tacoma aroma, which is a distinctive acrid odor, and it was produced by all the paper and pulp manufacturing on the industrial side. Now, that smell can still be smelled to this day, but back in the early 20th century, it was notoriously bad. Like, the smell was not good at all. Thankfully, they tackled it in the late 90s and finally got that problem fixed, but it still felt huge to this day. So I'm going to continue to, now I'm going to finally fly. So yeah, it is pretty crazy to say the least. This has been one heck of a ride, everyone. I guess, as soon as I get done, I want to see who I can raid. I think most likely I'm probably going to raid Beam It, probably. Oh, wait a minute. I just got the news earlier today. So the Kodiak's going to come out December 17th, which is going to be the Simworks Studios Kodiak. A plane a lot of people are extremely interested in. Yeah, I just saw that in her announcements. I forgot to check that. There. There. There, I had to drop pretty low. That was its flying high.